Okay, now we're going to talk about the first part of your classroom management plan, which is your room arrangement. And you are going to, that is the first part of the classroom management plan that you're going to be scored on. The draft for that is due in Module 3, which the date for that would be Thursday, September 16th. It goes on your discussion board. So that's when you need to have your completed draft ready to look at and get feedback. And just as a reminder, we want to affirm and extend. We want to see how your ideas translate into, or not translate, but relate to what the course says, the different ideas we've heard, and the things that you've read about in the modules. So you can go and look at the rubric as I showed you how earlier in the course shell, or here's another way of looking at it. And this is a little bit generic, but really the focus is on the physical classroom and then your explanation of why you're doing this and how this supports all your students in your classroom. So let's dig a little bit deeper into what that should look like. So you should have 3 parts to it. The first part I'm going to talk about first is that map. So really just a layout or a map of the classroom or a blueprint. And so what you could see in that is how you want your desks arranged. What are the different work areas you're going to have in your classroom? And that should be based on the age you're teaching, the subjects you're teaching, and things like that. So what are the different work areas you're going to have in the classroom? Material storage, your work area, things like that. So it's kind of think of it as a bird's eye view of your classroom. You can create one. You can draw it and take a picture of it. That's totally okay. You can use an online tool. Sometimes you can even see some that are already made in the classroom and use one of those as long as it has all the parts you need. The other thing you're going to think of as far as the graphic is over there on the right-hand column is I call them close-ups, but really those pictures of things you can't see on your blueprint. So you're not just taking part of your blueprint and making it bigger, because I still can't see your classroom library in there. I might see you're going to have one, but I don't see anything about what it's going to look like. You can't do that from a blueprint. So it's really just a more detailed view. It could be things you have on the wall. Remember, anything related to the physical environment. I put something about music, because what you can hear is related to the physical environment. You could have, some people like to use aromatherapy and stuff like that. So anything that relates to the physical environment, and you should have 5. Then you also want to have your rationale. For your overall rationale is an explanation. Rationale means the reason. Why did I set up? Why this? Why do I want these things in my classroom? How does this help my students? How does it help them learn? How does it meet their needs? So you're going to explain that. There should be some tie-in to the things that we're reading about in class or things that maybe you've talked about in your groups. So here's an example of what it would look like on a Padlet. So you are going to do, and there's a link there so you can come back and look at this Padlet a little closer if you want. So you can see my blueprint, you could see my written explanation, and then you should have at least 5 close-ups. Now, if you do those things, that minimum, the map, the explanation, and the close-ups, that keeps you in the effective range. If you want to go above and beyond, you need to think about how you do that. What makes my work exceptional? And so this would be an example of something I might do. I mentioned flexible seating, so then I'm going to take a step further and go, how do I get flexible seating in my classroom? So that would be that purple there is an example of what would take it up to highly effective if I went beyond just the general expectations. So I'm going to pause here and see if there's, I will check for questions. And of course, next week I will be able to take questions, because next week we're still in the draft phase. So if you still have questions, or of course you can email me.